Now we're going to move on to the next part of our program, which is called A List for the Gist. The List for the Gist. It's sort of a James Lipton-esque type of series of questions. We have 20 questions, and we ask from that list from everybody in our program. My first question for you is, what is your favorite movie?
I probably have a lot of favorite movies, but I'm thinking of one right now, which is my favorite, the most recent movie that I've seen that I love, and it's The Reader. And of course, you know, the Academy Award went to Best Actress for that, and I saw it a couple weeks ago. But maybe The Reader's an appropriate one to love as a writer and a reader myself. It's an extraordinary movie. So that, at the moment, that's my favorite.
Okay. At what age did you become an adult, and what happened to you to make it so?
I think having a child. I suddenly could no longer be a child myself. And,
did you expect that to happen? Like, were you ready for
No,
that?
I think that anybody who really knew that that would happen would never have a child, to tell you the truth. But you can never tell anybody that. You have to experience it. So I think I remember feeling myself to have been a very, very responsible, sort of grown-up teenager and young woman, but it wasn't, I really wasn't. But it was, I think, when I had my first child that I realized the depth of responsibility that adults
Right. Well,
have.
we're talking to some college students here, and
Yeah,
some of them do feel very mature and everything, so they're going to be different stages, different places where this happens to them. And
of course.
so we're just checking in with people and see what
Right,
happens
if you ask me with the second most, you know, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay. What's the best advice you ever got, you think, whether you followed it or not, looking back?
Well, this may not be the best, but it's a silly one that comes to mind, and that is thinking of having a child is my mother's advice to sleep while the babies were sleeping or to sleep while your children were napping, and I could never nap. I still can't nap.
I don't know anybody that can follow that advice, but it seems so
it's great
perfect.
advice. It's great advice, you know, that you rest, and but I think most parents probably run around and catch up on the stuff that.
Laundry.
Yeah. I think college students might be better at napping, but I couldn't even nap when I was in college.
What about regarding your work? Did you ever get any advice that you thought was useful in regard to your work?
I suspect that the best advice I got was to probably to try to trust that my own voice would be. That I need to listen to my own voice in my writing. I try to do that with my students too. I try to have them not envy others, or I think you can learn something by actively imitating as an exercise. But I think really to sort of slow down and somehow really trust that there was value in my own experience and value in my communication.
How long do you think, how did that evolution take place for you when you were able to trust your own voice, when you felt that the decisions that you were making, the writing that you were making, had to satisfy yourself and that was good enough for you? How long did you take you to get to be to that point that...
It really took a while. It took a while. I mean, it certainly didn't happen when I was a graduate student. And I had to, in a sense, for myself, get away from the classroom for a while as a student and to not be surrounded by, in a workshop setting with you know, peer critics and students in a way that I could begin to hear myself, I think.
Do you write every day?
No, I wish I could, but I don't have time to.
Yeah.
But the one thing that's really changed, I think, over the years of practicing the art of writing poetry is that when I do sit down, I focus immediately. And I remember when I was a student, it was very difficult to get that focus because it's quite a different way of being in that moment that you need to be in, well, I need to be in complete silence. Some people can listen to music. But it took me a while to sort of to shut out everything else. And now, and probably because of so many other demands of my teaching and my parenting and other things, that when I sit down, when I do have time to sit down, I just zero in. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to write well, but it means that I will find the state of mind. But that's like an athlete who exercises and can, you know, can go into whatever rhythm or use whatever muscle he or she needs out because of practice.
So have you ever been on a writer's retreat where they have these places in Vermont that you have a little cabin and that's yours and you go and you find that useful, that kind of
very, very
atmosphere?
Useful. I finished my first book there in two, actually, Yaddo and the McDowell Colony, one in New York and one in New Hampshire. And then it was many years until I could get away from my family when I went away again. And I've gone back to Yaddo. I've gone to a place outside of Chicago. The most exciting was in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh, wow.
I stayed in the Hawthornden International Writers Retreat, a castle. I wrote in a castle for a month. It was wonderful, yeah.
So you're the type of person that does benefit from
tremendously.
going away.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Our last question is, what would you like to have written on your tombstone?
Well, first of all, I think I really don't want a tombstone. I'm thinking I want to be cremated, and I want my ashes to be thrown into water, maybe like the sea beyond Endicott. But if I did have a tombstone, I think I might want a better name than Allison Funk on the tombstone. Many times that's the name I was born with, or I was given. It's not a married name. And I've always hated my last name. And I've wished that in many ways that when I first started to publish that I'd selected a sort of, a nom de plume.
Right.
And
so you've never written under a pseudonym?
No, I haven't.
Maybe
so
now is the time?
I would like to have my pseudonym. I would like to have a name that sort of rolled off the tongue. I thought Allison Clendaniel or something. So some other name on my tombstone that no one will know where I'm buried.
Right. But if you're sprinkled,
right, if I'm sprinkled,
maybe it won't matter. They
right.
can say any name.
Right, I can be no one.
All right, well, thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome
Thank
back
you.
to Endicott. I hope
Thank
you
you.
enjoyed your visit.
It was really fun.
As always, we hope you get the gist.